Good morning. Welcome to my sort of end of week haunt chat, which I think is this number 4, number 5? I can't remember. Yeah, I was going to do this yesterday, but I went to a Christmas party on Friday night, my work's Christmas do, and yeah, I just can't drink anymore. I just can't do it, and I suffer like mad the next day. And I think I partied a bit too much, especially for a 50-year-old guy, because the party was actually held only about a mile and a half from here at the local football ground. And literally you turn left out the football ground and walk straight over two islands and turn right, and it brings you up this road to my house. For some reason, I don't know why, I left the football ground and turned right. And even though I knew I was going the wrong way, I can vaguely remember thinking, well, I'll just keep walking, eventually you'll get a road sign and you'll get your bearings. And I ended up about 2 miles in the opposite direction. Fortunately, I bumped into my friend who was at the party, and I ended up staying in his hotel room for the night. So yeah, anyway, yesterday I was pretty tired and pretty hungover, but yeah, I just can't drink anymore. I just can't drink. But it sort of leads me, I wanted to do a bit of a sort of origins video. I've noticed other collectors who've got YouTube channels have been sort of quite candid and open about how they got to where they are, and I suppose really some of you have no idea really who I am or and what I do away from collecting statues. So you know, it might be that you know you're interested. It might be that you're not. If you're not interested, you don't need to watch all this, do you? So yeah, basically I just wanted to give a brief rundown. I did skim over this in my one of my first haunt chats, so I don't really want to go over the same old ground really, but I suppose up into modern times or recent years, it's quite ironic that I started talking about drinking, because I used to be a very heavy drinker. I used to work shifts in quite a stressful job that I had, and I hung around with people who were, you know, big into the pub scene, and I drank horrendous amounts. And it wasn't until I got into my 40s that I sort of made a decision to walk away from that life and sort myself out. And so that's what I did. I mean, I quit smoking about 7 years ago now, I think it was. And I quit vaping about 3 years ago. I stopped drinking beer about 3 years ago, I think now. 3, maybe 4. Because I had dietary issues anyway, so I'd already stopped eating bread. And I'd cut other things out my diet, like potatoes and pastry. And yeah, it's like now I tend to eat, I don't eat sort of red meat or anything now, I only eat fish. And I eat like a lot of olives and pasta, and a very Mediterranean diet I have now. So yeah, I did that, and what I started doing about, it would have been 2019. Yes, it would have been 2019. I started going to the gym because I was quite overweight, and I'd never been a gym person before, and I just had this sudden drive to get myself in shape. But unfortunately, all the COVID came along and the lockdowns came along, and it kept breaking my routine up, and I was going back after however many weeks of the gyms being closed, or months even, with the gym being closed. And at sort of 49, 50 years old, trying to force myself back into where I was before the lockdown had come along, and I was getting injuries. I injured this shoulder terribly. It took months and months for it to heal. And basically, this year, it was in August, I was struck down all of a sudden with Bell's palsy. And for any of you that don't know much about that, it's non-serious, but I can assure you it certainly isn't non-worrying, and certainly not non-uncomfortable. It's one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had, because drinking and eating was almost impossible. I certainly couldn't do it without making a mess and having to use my hands to hold my mouth shut and things like that. And I got quite concerned by it, and fortunately, as you can tell, I've made a full recovery from it, thank God. And but I sort of started thinking about, because they don't know what triggers it. Some people have been liking it to the COVID vaccine and things like that, but I'm really not. I'm not going to go down sort of conspiracy route. I have had my vaccine. But for me, I was concerned about the fact that I'd been pushing myself quite hard at the gym, and certainly the specialist I spoke to was quite concerned about that as well. So I've decided, should I say, to take a 6 month break from going to the gym, just and see how I am. I mean, I feel absolutely fine, but the good thing is I've maintained a strict diet, which I stick to. My only weakness is I have a real thing for sweet food, so cake or anything like that. I'm terrible. But I've managed to leave fast food behind. I don't miss that at all. And yeah, and I do sort of cardio work at home, albeit I don't do a great deal. I must admit I've managed to do about 20 minutes this morning. And yeah, so that's kind of keeping me in shape. So that really is sort of, I came out of in being in a very quite a dark place really. When I was drinking, because I was drinking well into excess, and I'd certainly gone down a self-destructive route, and I got myself into quite a bit of trouble financially as well, which a lot of that was to do with the fact that I got divorced, and my divorce cost me a fortune. I just wasn't dealing with things. So yeah, so there was that big turnaround in my life, sort of in the last 6 7 years, and which is why now I'm absolutely useless at drinking. I can't drink at all. But the thing is, I don't enjoy it anymore either. I enjoy socialising, and I enjoy going out with friends and what have you. But the drinking side, I really don't. I don't enjoy that now. But yeah, so from that, I started obviously making sure that I was busy with my spare time. And that was the key, was to not be bored, was to not get bored. Now, I don't get bored. I never have. I've just realised I've got a microphone on and I've just knocked it. I'm just trying this new mic out to see how it works. I've been advised to get one, so I'm hoping this sounds a lot better than it has been doing. So that was the thing. And I'd always had pastimes. Now, I'd spent a lot of years bird watching, which was actually really quite a healthy thing to do, in so much as you were outdoors and you were walking and everything else. But I'd become obsessed with trying to find rare and scarce birds, and occasionally going to go and see rare birds, which meant driving all over the country. And I'd be out the house all hours, and I was just never at home. It was one of the reasons why my marriage failed, one of a few reasons, but that was certainly one reason. And after I got divorced, I realised something had happened to a friend of mine. And I'd realised I'd got this 3-year-old daughter who I just wasn't spending any time with. And I knew that I'd become completely obsessed with basically this hobby that I'd got. So I walked away from it. And I began instead keeping tarantulas. Now, for any arachnophobes there, as I'm doing this, I don't know how I'm going to edit it, but I might stick pictures up of some of the tarantulas I kept. So you might want to just skim through in case I do, if you've got a fear of spiders. Now, I did this for about 12 years, and I had, I think, somewhere in the region, certainly in excess of 700 tarantulas in that time. And I'd had some success in captive breeding with them as well, and I worked my way through the hobby, and I got to the point where I was collecting basically one of the rarest genesis of tarantula, in so much as it was rare in the hobby because these were quite an expensive species of tarantulas. I mean, you could buy tarantulas, baby ones, for like £1, £2 each. Some of them, if you put an order in for 3 or 4, like the breeders would send you 2 or 3 certain species for free because they just weren't worth anything. But the ones I were collecting were sort of round about 20, 30, £40 each. But I got a really interesting collection, and I mean, I absolutely loved them. And I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, they were one, and I miss having them immensely. But I developed quite a harsh allergic reaction to them because all the ones I had were from South America. And the South American tarantulas are the ones that have the urticating hairs. They kick hairs, but these hairs come off in molts and everything else. And I had them here on front room. That's what them shelves are for there. I had tarantulas all on them shelves. I had a huge shelving unit over there behind the camera. And, I had hundreds of tarantulas. So this room was full of tarantula hair. So I was coming over, sitting, and my eyes would be swollen, and I couldn't breathe. And in the end, I realised that it was this. It was this kicked in when I came home. So sadly, I ended up selling and giving away all of my tarantulas, and I gave them to people who I knew, and I knew well in the hobby, so I knew they'd be looked after well. But yeah, and then after that, I'd already, and I've done this roughly in my first video, so I don't want to go too in depth in this. I'd started collecting the hot toys, and I discovered Sideshow, and it was then that I sort of got into the Court of the Dead, and I sort of buried myself in the Court of the Dead range. Now, I absolutely loved the Court of the Dead range, and to this day I still do. I think it's a fantastic bunch of characters, and the books are really well worth the read. And my reason for leaving them, and I'm going to be completely honest, was the fact that I sold all my Court of the Dead collection off last year, because I felt that it was running out of steam and it didn't seem to be going anywhere. And sadly, with the release now of their latest premium format, a figure called Strife, who I have no idea who that is. It's a complete unknown. There's characters in the books who people are screaming out for them to make, and they've not made, but they make a complete unknown. But there's been no previews for new premium format figures, and there's nothing coming out anytime soon in the and I was only interested in the premium formats. And it seems to be that they're doing these 6th scale ones now, the posable ones, which seem to be being made by other companies as well. It's like they've sort of offloaded their own line. And I could see this back in 2019, and I was getting concerned, because even though by the end of 2019 I'd had my most recent piece, which was Poxel, which was one of my favourite statues in the whole line, but I felt that there didn't seem to be the same lust for the line coming across. They just didn't seem. I mean, at the time, I think there was about 4 pre-orders out at the time, or upcoming premium formats. But since then, I mean, this is 2019, so 2 years. There's only been one, and I was sort of like, I can't wait 18 months, 2 years for a premium format to come out. I want to get into this. I want this to occupy my time. I want to be able to discuss it online with people, and there's not enough of a story there yet to discuss it that much. So I ended up selling all my collection, and I've got to say this, I think that the Court of the Dead range, the premium formats, are the best work sites. And everybody used to go on about Malavestros being the best in the line, or arguably the best in the line. He wasn't. He didn't even get in my top 5. My favourite was Zyle. I think Zyle is an exquisite statue. I really do, and I do wish I hadn't sold it, to be honest. But yeah, so that I came away from that, and I started when I saw the Prime 1 Sauron piece being previewed, which was February last year. I pre-ordered it on day 1, and that brings us to where I am now. In so much as I'm collecting. I've got movie statues, because I've got the Predator, I've got the Terminator, but predominantly it's Lord of the Rings now, and that's the way I'm going to be going. And I thought it would only be Prime 1, but Weta all of a sudden have got a whole line of stuff coming out, which is fantastic. But now we've got Infinity Studios and Queen Studios doing Lord of the Rings pieces as well. Obviously, Darkside Collectibles have shown a teaser of everything that they're doing with Lord of the Rings. So yeah, so it looks like there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out in the future, and in 2022 I've got a lot of stuff due. So that's it really. I just wanted to do a little bit of a background video just of me in the last sort of 10 years really. So yeah, I hope this video has been interesting for you all, and obviously anything you want to know, just ask, just leave it in the comments and I'll get back to you. I apologise for anyone who's commented, and if I haven't liked it or commented, I do apologise. It's probably because I haven't seen it. For some reason, my notifications on my channel is a little bit here and there. It's a bit all over the place. So sometimes I just don't get notified. I think it's 6 weeks old now, the channel is, and we're one off 80 subscribers, which is, I'm really, really chuffed with that. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Again, anything that you'd like me to discuss in future videos, just leave a comment and let me know. And again, thank you to everyone who stuck by me this far. There'll be more stuff coming in the future, hopefully a little bit more interesting than this video. I just wanted to bang this one out, really, just as a, just so you a bit of a background on me. That was all, really. And I'll be sticking a video out in the coming week. I'll be doing another couple of videos then. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next video, whenever that is, in the next few days, 3-4 days maybe. So take care and have a brilliant Christmas. If I don't speak to you before Christmas, I'm sure I will, but happy Christmas to everyone, and I'll catch you soon on the next video. Okay.